Oh yeah, here we go again, it's the crew. Living it loud, living it proud, rocking with the truth. Holy Spirit in my pocket, always on the move. 30-minute miracle, got no time to lose. That's on God.
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 Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to our podcast, the On God podcast. I'm Iris. For those that you may not know me as yet, I'm one of the hosts here on our awesome podcast, and I'm accompanied by amazing castmates, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
I'm Dylan.
Hey, I'm Emily.
Hey, I'm Jake.
I'm Jonathan.
Awesome. And again, thank you guys. Thank you to everybody that's tuning in. If you're listening on Spotify or if you're watching us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is, make sure you guys follow us. Make sure you stay for the ride. Make sure you share to somebody that you believe will enjoy listening. And so let's get started. So if this is our episode 3, dealing with the topic of identity influencers. And so if you haven't caught episode 1 or 2, make sure you catch that or go back and watch that after you're done watching this one. So on our previous episode, we spoke about parenting. We spoke on what it looks like from a godly lens, and we shared our perspectives as some of us being parents, some of us being still kids under our parents. And we even had a special guest, and I won't, if you've seen it, you've seen it, but if you haven't, I won't spoil that for you. So make sure you go check those out. For today's episode, we're going to be talking about social circles. Who we are is contributed by the people around us, the things that we experience. And so we did touch on this a little bit in our previous episode, but we want to get deeper. So for my fellow podcast mates, I want to kick this off with a question. I would like us to share a little bit of what your social circle looked like growing up, as you were a kid, as you were in church or in school. And anyone can take that.
I'll kick it off. Ooh, Jonathan, you want to take it?
You got it, Emily. You got it.
All right. So my social circle growing up, I was fortunate to have a lot of people in my social circle, and I'm very happy about that. I had my church community, and so I started going to church since I was 3 months. And so basically that's why when I say born and raised in church, I literally mean it. So I had I have a great church community. And I'm actually really proud to say that some of my best friends I have found are through my church community. I remember starting being in youth group since the 6th grade, and that was 2013. So we've been very, very close for a solid 10 years now, almost. A little bit, no. Has it been 10 years?
Yeah.
No, I lied. It's not 2014. I think it's 2017. 2017, I think. I can't do math, but that's a lot of years, I'm assuming.
I think you were right.
Whatever. We've been friends for a long time. So I'm really blessed to have them in my life. In school, I think my social circle for my friends in school, though, were a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? My social circle in school changed a lot. And I won't get into that just yet because I know we're gonna, talk about that more in the episode. But I just wanted to highlight that like I had one circle that was consistent in my life, but then another circle that, changed a lot. So yeah, that was what my social circle kind of looked like growing up.
Loyalty.
For me, I would say like my social circle also like especially in school varied a lot. I remember for me, I was always in a group of three. I don't know why. But I was either like the one that was like medium, the medium kid. Like sometimes there was like one kid that was taller than me, one kid that was shorter than me. I was like in the middle. Um, and it always rotated. Like I went to about like four different schools growing up, now that I think about
Oh
it.
wow.
Um,
Wow.
but yeah, it was interesting. I always had a group of three. It was always me with like two other guys, like chilling out. We always bonded over like something very niche. Like I remember I had a social circle in like sixth grade over like we used to like talk about science. We were a bit of a nerd group then. And then like middle school, it was like anime, which is kind of weird. It was a weird time.
Oh.
Because one kid, the reason why I say this, one kid, like, I did a drawing, an anime drawing of like Naruto, and then the kid like ripped my drawing. I don't know why to this
Ooh.
day.
Oh no.
So it's a
So did
lot.
you fight?
But I almost fought him, but
Oh,
fighting is not my nature.
right. No fighting, kids. No
Jonathan.
fighting. No fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think for me, my social circle did change a lot. Right now, I would say people on this podcast in my social circle. For sure.
Yeah. Boy.
So it's no longer three, it's multiplied.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Double O.
Yeah, that's my social circle, I guess, experience.
Nice. Nice. Okay. Yeah, I'll go. So for me, growing up, it was a very similar situation as Emily's. I was born in Lincoln Hospital, which has one of the worst healthcare systems, but aside from that, I would say that I have grown up most of my life going to a church. Um, and yeah, I had childhood friends, people who I bonded with, people and for me, growing up in and going to church, I almost felt like I was rotating best friends every year. Like I had a best friend who would come and we'd really bond, we'd go to church camp and whatnot. And then they would just like them and their family would like leave and they would never come back. And so then the next year comes back and I bond with a new kid, right? Until finally I kind of I guess God settled me on the pastor's kid of all people, and he and I connected. I would go over to his house when my mom would come over to like teach his cousin how to drive and stuff. She would give him driving lessons, so I would come along and he and I would play, and we would like play with the like his little action figures and stuff. He was really into Spider-Man. I was into Spider-Man. You know, Spider-Man brings people together.
Yeah.
But as I got older, obviously the circle begins to fluctuate and grow, and it goes from me. I find like people to be exhausting. So, and I don't mean that like oh like any one person. I just think I have a certain amount of energy to expend.
So you're calling us what exactly?
Listen,
we-
I slept all day today
Are
just
you
to
not
have enough energy
entertained?
to
Right,
to this.
right.
So,
Okay.
no, I'm
Okay.
just kidding. But I like to focus like my friendships on like just small groups, and so it was always me and this one kid, the pastor's kid. I should stop calling him that. His name was Daniel. He was really he and I are still good friends. We don't talk as much now, but I like to invest in like individuals rather than groups. High school, yeah, I got into like the cliques. My clique was the anime kids, Jonathan, and the like the rockers and all that stuff. You might say that some of them were the emo kids. I was definitely had my emo phase. I don't know how many of you guys had an emo phase, if you did or didn't, but I had my emo phase. And
No, I think it's just you, Jake.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
me.
Has
That's
to
okay.
be.
It's
Yeah.
okay.
Ringing
It's
the
all right.
bells here.
Right? No.
Sure. But yeah, and then after that, college and but I always walked away from high school with one person, and she and I have been really great friends for like the longest time. I think our relationship is now going on more than 13 years now. It's kind of crazy
Oh my
to think about
gosh.
that. but like I've had a friend for longer than a decade.
Put a name
And
to it. She
yeah,
deserves
shout outs to Anaya Tatiana.
Woo!
She's an artist. She's worked for Cartoon Network. Bro, listen, my
Wow.
friends are all cool people. Like some of the
Hey, that's us, guys. That's us.
Yeah,
that's all
he's
you
talking
guys
about us
do. Yeah.
first and
I only
foremost,
make
and that's on God.
and that's on God.
Yeah.
And I only make friends with really cool people. So
Wow.
yeah, that's all I'm gonna say for now. And yeah, I'll pass it on to Dylan.
Yes, sir. I'm kind of interesting because I feel like even though I grew up in church, we had a small group. It was like 4 of us in the group that we all grew up kind of together. But then my best friend's family moved to Pennsylvania. Shout out Denny and the crew. So once they moved, I was initially devastated, but God, as he often does, the fact that I was no longer, I don't want to say distracted, but I was no longer, goofing around in church. I was able to actually start like finding ways to get involved in church. And I think that
Yeah.
helped me a lot. As far as school, I was always a friendly person. Let me see, I always had a decent amount of friends. I think in high school, I was extremely lucky to be the person that was kind of like the catch-all. So like I was in concert choir, so I knew all the choir people. My brother played on the basketball team for a little bit, so I knew all the sports people, and I would play basketball,
Yeah.
outside. So I knew the jocks, I knew the concert people. I had friends in the emo crew, so I kind of knew everybody. But I would definitely say, just as there's always the smaller circles. I think I had a crew of like 4 of us. It was me and 3 of my friends that we really made it through high school together. Unfortunately, once college hit and life hit, like honestly,
Yeah.
most of those relationships fell off. And we'll probably
Yeah.
talk about this later on in the podcast, but yeah, most
Yeah.
of those relationships fell off. And I think I've struggled to find a group of people before these awesome people that I'm doing a podcast with that I could consistently relate to. I feel like in college I was so busy with work, trying to work and go to school at the same time. I went to school in Jamaica, Queens, and I lived in Bayshore. So it's like an hour drive each way. So you don't got much. And when you're driving to work, you don't got much time to like socialize. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what Dylan is humbly saying is that in high school he was popular. Like the
Yeah.
catch-all
Oh.
phrase,
Yeah.
nah.
Say
Dylan was
that.
popular, all right? Dylan was a popular kid that we were all jealous of. We just gotta put that out there.
I
All right.
wouldn't go jealous of. It's just I knew everybody. I wouldn't
Right.
go jealous.
I'm messing with you.
Oh man, I'm really glad you say that, Emily, because I'm pretty similar in that sense. When I was growing up, we're really my family is really like grounded in being a family. So like my crew, my circle was this guy. I'm putting my brother,
Oh.
Jake, and Aaron, and that was my circle for I would say since I've been able to collect memories until I went to high school. We were I think I was in 5th grade. He was in middle school, just starting middle school is when we got pulled out of the public system and we were homeschooled. So that brought us even closer together, like all 3 of us in the same house, just learning the same stuff. And so for a while it was just like me and them, and we're like doing our own thing, playing together. Sometimes we're all in the same room doing our own thing and we're just comfortable. You know what I mean? Nobody needs to be like, oh, how was the weather or something
Yeah, we
like
didn't
that.
have to be fake.
Yeah, it was just like a real like I guess our own kind of clique in a sense.
The
But
homeschool club.
but then when high school hit, like it like my algebra teacher likes to phrase it when we had parent teacher night to my mother, I was a social butterfly. I made friends with everybody, and for some of you this is a good thing, but for my parents this was a bad thing, because if you're socializing with everybody, you're not paying attention to the class, you're not paying attention to the lessons being
That's
taught.
what our parents got from that.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily what the teacher meant, but that's what they
Right.
understood it
Yeah.
to be.
So like after being open to like other people, different perspectives other than what me and my brothers have been,
Living with.
yeah. I definitely made friends with the kind of geeks, the nerds, the artistic guys, the seniors and the athletics, and so but I wouldn't say I was popular. I would say more I was like the fly on the wall and just observing everybody and able to just
Iris,
like
you get
be
it.
there.
You get
Um,
it.
Right.
That's what I was too. You know,
I but it's really cool hearing everybody's perspective and everybody's like kind of progress through these different social circles. Some of us have had different size of groups. Some of us have had more than one social circle, which is interesting to hear. And so that makes me bring up the next question. Um, and I hope you guys are I hope you guys are familiar with the saying quality over quantity. You know what I mean? Like really valuing the substance than just like numbers, you know? And I just wanted to ask, like, when you guys realized this when it came to your social circle, you know, did it really cause a change for you to, you know, pick and choose like who you had around you?
1000%. 1000%, yes. And if I'm being completely honest, I don't think I fully grasped the concept of quality over quantity until college, really. And I'll explain a little bit about that. So I mean, I was the only person, yes, yes. No, I lied. I think I was one of like two or three people from my high school that went to my college. But if you don't know this about me already, I am a part of the Macaulay Honors College, and that's a part of John Jay. And so it's kind of like an honors program within the different CUNY colleges. And so I was the only one from my high school that was going into that program in the school. And so it was kind of like I was going into college with none of my high school friends. Um, and, college is a very new environment. Like, you think it's like high school, but it's not. Like, the workload is different. The professors expect so much more out of you. You're kind of just like learning how to navigate the world as like a mini adult.
Mhm.
And so, you know, I think I definitely wanted a lot of friends. Like, I wanted the ability to, have that idealized college experience where, you're doing well in school, don't get me wrong, never let my grades drop. But also, you have that social aspect. Me personally, I am not dorming at college. I am living at home, and I commute to school every single day. And so I wanted to make sure that I was still able to get that social aspect that is, that should be a part of everyone's college experience, especially because I wasn't dorming. Um, and so I tried my best to make friends with people. Um, and I think even to this day, I'm still trying to grasp this fact that, some people in college just don't like me. And you know what? That's okay. Like I'm not like you're not a lot of people don't have to like you. Um, but what matters is the people that you do surround yourself with, right? It's not about the people that have opinions about you but don't really
Mm,
talk to
yeah.
you, right? And so I've learned to not let the opinions of people who aren't in my circle affect me. And because of that, right, like I learned to value quality over quantity. In college, I would say I have a solid so I feel like I have two kind of groups in college. I have one group that's like my Christian friends. So I'm a part of a Christian women's ministry on my campus. Shout out to Light Ministries. Um, and so I am fortunate enough to be a leader in that club. And so my leadership team, I would say we're really, really close. We hold each other accountable. Funny enough, we're going to Pittsburgh soon for a little retreat. So I'm really excited about that. And I don't necessarily travel with just anybody. And so the fact that I'm traveling with them and I'm building my walk with God with them means a lot to me. So that's like one group of like five girls. And then on the other side, I have my best friend that I've made in college. And she's in the same honors program that I am, and she and I are like this. And I'm really grateful for her and like my Christian friends, because they made me see that I don't need the big group of 10, 20, 30 people. What really matters is I'm having the people who really value me, value my opinions, and want to see me grow and thrive. It's not like, friends in high school who would be nice to your face and then talk mess behind your back. Like I really feel confident that the people that I've met in college have shown me that, what matters is the people that I'm friends with and who they are on the inside than the number, because I would rather them than more friends.
That's so good.
Yeah. I'm happy to go next, if anything. Uh, I wanted to share, like, for me, um, so I think as I was hearing everyone, one thing I realized, like, I disqualified one-on-one relationships for some reason in my head as a social circle, because in my head that's not a circle, it's a line. Um, so if I do count that, I realize, like, for me the most meaningful, like, relationships I've had were with one-on-one people. And I would say shout out to my sister. We've grown up, and we're like this. So that's like she's in my social circle. And also, like, for other times, like when I graduated high school, I remember that I had the idea that the more, at least, like, having a good group of friends is like, normal, or what you normally want. But then I realized, like, honestly, the people that stick around are like, it doesn't need to be a big group. Like, it doesn't need to be like a whole set of people. I shout out to Daniela. She's also my friend from high school. We've been friends for 10 years. Um, so I'm very grateful for her, but she has kept me. And we've had very deep conversations about our faith. And, like, she's a Christian, and she has come up to me and to me, you need to get it together sometimes. And I appreciate you telling me that. Because honestly, I realized, like, a lot of the people I surrounded myself with before wouldn't do that. They wouldn't, like, tell me anything bad or, like, harsh. So for me, I would rather have one deep conversation as opposed to five shallow conversations.
Okay. Yeah, no, all right, man, friendships, am I right? Um, the thing about friendships and why when I came to the place, or let me rewind. Before I got to the place where it was quality and it was quantity for me, I don't think it was like how it was for a lot of people. Um, for me, it was like the question came down to, okay, what are friends for? What is the purpose of friendship? And for me at the time, it was like, um, all right, this is gonna be kind of cringe, but remember that old SpongeBob song, "Friends," F is for friends that do stuff together, right? Yeah. So, like, for me, like,
That's an anthem. What do you
the
mean
purpose
cringe,
for
bro?
the purpose for friends, it was like fun. It was about people you can have fun with, right? People you can have fun with. But as I got older, I began to understand, like, okay, it's not just about how the presence of these people can make me feel good, but it's also what can I offer them, and how do I how do I become better at being a good friend to others, instead of just trying to uh, take and take and take. And so, as I began to learn that sometimes I could probably be a better friend in certain cases, I began to realize, oh, okay, so not only do I need to work on my friendship, but I also need to work on, like, the friends I have. And so it became a process. Like Iris mentioned, we were homeschooled for a good 3 years, in our, like, junior high years, until we got to high school. And so once I got to high school, I I had developed, like, a weird way of socializing. Like, I didn't really want to talk to many people, but I also wanted friends. It wasn't like I didn't want friends, but I also wanted to be, like, careful on who I chose. And so I got really good at reading people and, like, pegging, like, different personalities. You know how you can, like, sense the type of person, the vibe of a person. Like, okay, this is that person who's, like, really compensating for something, or this is that person who's super quick to state their opinions but not listen to anybody else's opinions. So I became, I guess you could say, a really good listener, and an observer of people before I chose my friends. And then that's how I found myself in the, like, high school group of people who I could genuinely vibe with, because they not only were they into the same things that I was into, but they also had the ability to um, to communicate their feelings really well. I think communication, right? We talked about this in our last episode, but communication is one of the foundations of a good, healthy relationship. And so I really had a good communication relationship with my friends in high school. Like, we could talk about just about anything. And like so many of us, once high school was over and we rolled into college, that all kind of fell apart. And certain friends who you thought you'd be connected with forever, they're moving on with life, and you have to cope with that. I thank God for the friends who did stick with me, even friends who might not be followers of God, or they might have their own idea of Christianity that maybe it's not the same idea as my Christianity, but they still respect me, and they still choose to rock with me. Like, matter the most, because their heart is open enough to still include me in their life, and I'm still willing to include them. And obviously, God has blessed me with a really great group of people who I'm very thankful for, and they all have, I would say, the same heart posture that I have, when it comes to their faith and when it comes to life. And yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I mean, unless Dylan, you wanted to share a little bit on like when did that change for you? Yeah.
I think one thing I do want to mention is that you realize when you go to college and as you get older, the things that you stressed about in high school don't really matter as much anymore.
Gosh.
Like I don't think I had that realization until like my second or third year of college.
Depending on what it is that you make a big deal in.
Yeah,
And
I agree with that.
That's
I've
true,
heard,
but I think as a teenager, everything, I don't know, for me, it felt like everything was a big deal. Like,
no, yeah, for generally speaking, most of our worries in high school, probably we look back with hindsight and we're thinking, okay, it wasn't that crazy.
yeah.
It was probably still crazy, but it wasn't that crazy.
Yeah. I think the same goes for me. When I went into college, I think I only had one friend, genuine friend from high school, went to the same college as me. I went to Lehman College when I was living still in the city. And even through that, when it got to my junior year, we dwindled. We were like a pack. We went, I don't know why, but we were like that one group in the cafeteria in college that took up most of the space and was like really loud for some reason. And again, I'm like the fly on the ball, so I wasn't loud or anything, but I digress. But I think it was around that time, like that trend, those years of like sophomore into junior year, where I realized, like, is this it? Like, am I like, do I need this? Is this necessary for me? Like, are all 12 people that are surrounding me right now, benefiting me in any way, pushing me, challenging me, and if they're not doing that, what are they doing? You know what I mean? Like, why am I in this circle? And so I think we even touched on like some red flags. Red flags are not just exclusive to like relationships, but it surrounds or includes all types of relationships. And so when it comes to these social circles, I know there are a lot of red flags, like Emily said, ones that are not challenging you, people that are just like keeping you stagnant. How do you kind of cut loose those people that aren't really
How do you cut them off?
Yeah, cut them off.
Yeah.
Ghost them. Ghost them.
Yeah, I'm
No,
bad.
you
I
can't just
go.
ghost them.
Well, that's a good question. Like, do you completely ghost them just for the sake of like, let's get moving? Or is there like some way that you can be like, hey,
Ghost them.
bye?
No.
Can I defend the ghosters? Because I am a ghoster.
Okay, then I'll rebut.
Yeah. Let me defend the ghosters real quick,
Ding,
because
ding,
I
ding.
was one who, I'll ghost you, but it's not intentional, right? It's not like we just sit there and say like, yo, I'm not talking to that person anymore. We're done. That's it. I think what happens is just, one day goes by, you don't talk. And then 2 days, and then 3 days, and then just life goes on. It's not like it's not always personal. Now there are those, if it's a toxic friendship, you
Mhm.
gotta cut them off, you cut them off. Like it's that. But most of the times, at least in my ghosting experience, it's just been life moves on. It's no harm, no foul. Like all four of my friends that I was great friends with in high school, that we were like inseparable, and even we kept it going for like 2 years into college, even though like one of us was in Stony Brook, one of us was like in the Bronx. We were all over, but we would still come together, every break. Like it just happened, man. After the 2 years, we just one summer we didn't meet up, and that was it. Like, everybody just stopped talking to each
Oh
other.
no.
If I see them, we're still cool. Like I ghosted them, but not like in a bad way.
Well, you see, in those moments, Dylan, I wouldn't say that's necessarily ghosting though, but I would say
Yeah,
that's drifting apart.
yeah,
I
Mm,
feel like I feel like for people who, you are friends with, but then you notice some not great tendencies and you do want to distance yourself from them, I would say then in those situations, I wouldn't advise for ghosting, just me personally, because I feel like you can't like it's hard to go from, being close to someone to not talking to them.
yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
understand that where the time goes by and then you drift apart, like that can happen. But if you are, relatively close to someone and then you're noticing these things that, you might not agree with or might compromise with your Christian beliefs and you feel like the best thing to do is to separate, I would advocate for having a conversation with that person. I think, it goes back to what Jake was saying earlier and like what we were talking about in the previous episode. Like communication really is key here. And, also making it clear that, it's not that you don't like them as a person, it's just that the things that this person is doing just doesn't align with you.
Mm,
And, with that, you will have to, or you want to distance yourself a little bit if these behaviors continue. And I think we've all heard this, this phrase of like, you are a reflection of the company you keep, right?
mm,
And so like your friends can say and will say a lot about you.
mm,
Um, because, if you are tolerant of people who just might not be good people, regard in any way that you can take that, then that can be a reflection of who you are. Now, that's not to say that, we should only be friends with people who are Christian, because that's not true either. Like we have a responsibility as Christians to save the lost, and that will require us to, be friends with people who don't know God. But at the same time, if you feel as though this person is making more of an influence on you than you're making on them,
mm.
that's the point where you need to, have that conversation and start distancing yourself.
Say that again.
that's so
I
good.
think having ungodly friendships requires you to be so grounded
Yeah.
in your
Yes.
faith that you cannot be moved. If you,
Mm-hmm.
like Emily said, if you feel yourself shaking, then it may be best for you not even to cut it off, but just distance yourself a little bit.
Right, right.
Y'all
And
got
that's
to
not
pull out the Bible.
and but that's also not like I also want to just emphasize too, like it's not a bad thing to
Right.
distance yourself from people. So many times, we have the phrase, cut them off, like like it's like an axe down the line of the friendship and it's
Eba.
done. And it's like you're never gonna talk to them again. But it doesn't have to be that big of a thing. People outgrow each other all the time, and that's just life.
Mm.
I know it definitely feels weird in the moment. Like I had really good friends in high school that I thought would never leave. Like, we would always be friends. And then college happened and we just stopped talking. And that's not to say that like, they're bad people or whatever.
No,
But that's just how life happens. And it's the same way here too. It's like if you outgrow people, that's fine. You are allowed to do that and give yourself the grace to do that. Don't feel as though you have to stay in friendships that are draining you, because then that's just going to affect you so much more than you might realize in the moment.
definitely. Oh, Paul, listen, listen, listen. Proverbs
Uh,
13. Proverbs 13.
Did you freeze?
No, I didn't freeze. I'm right here.
I thought you were.
Proverbs 13:20. Walk with the wise and become wise. Associate with fools and get in trouble. Why does it say walk with the wise? Because the wisest thing you can do is seek God, right? Seeking the fear of the Lord is the beginning of true knowledge and wisdom. So why does it say walk with the wise? He's saying walk with those who are equally yoked in this journey, walking in faith, and then you will become more wise. You will gain knowledge. You will gain the things necessary to prevail and endure in this walk, because this walk isn't easy. But if you associate with fools, you will get in trouble, because common sense tells you foolish people do foolish things, and foolish things reap only destruction. So that's on God.
Yeah, I mean, I think it all boils down to staying true to who you are and staying true to who God calls you to be when it comes to your social circle, the people around you. And like Emily said, like that way, as people flock to you, they see the circle around you and they're like, oh, this is somebody that knows something that I don't know, and let me get to know that thing.
I just wanted to add quickly because as everyone's speaking, also, I realized like, I think for me, when I went to college, that's when I really started to take my faith seriously. In high school, I was like, I don't know, I was there. I'll just put it that way. And I remember having friends around me that most of them weren't Christian. Um, and for me, I didn't really say like, this is like something that's like been developing for years, but sometimes I realize that when I'm in a circle of friends or a group of friends, and oftentimes there's a conversation will start about like Jesus, faith. There is a fear in my heart that like my fear anxiety goes to the roof when I'm with certain people. And I don't know why. Um, well, the reason why I look back now is because, the people around me were very hostile to the idea of God, and I'm a Christian. So
Yeah.
it was hard for me. And
Yeah.
I think for me, because I wasn't like very serious about it, I felt very insecure to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I realized over time, like, I wanted to get away from that feeling of anxiety. So for some people, it might be like, this person isn't really a good person for me because they're not encouraging me, or their habits are kind of wilding out and I'm starting to wild out. But for
Yeah.
me, I realized like I didn't want to be in such environments where I'm always tense. And I realized for me, like, my faith was something crucial to my existence, and I wanted to be able to express that freely. And I think it was also coming to realize that like when I get in an environment and I'm like anxious about talking about God, it probably shows the kind of like relationship I'm having with these people that, I can't be my best self, or I can't be my true self with.
Right. Right.
Hey man, again, our job is to open the door and show them the opportunity to the actual savior. You know what I mean? So that's awesome. That's really good. That's definitely inspiring for, I hope, for everybody here. As it may seem like you have this goal in your head, but as soon as God is like, hey, nah, I need you to do this. I personally pray for you guys and for us as a team, that we have a quickening in our feet and a boldness when, and an obedient spirit when God says, hey, I need you to do something. And with that being said, I think I'm over time, but I just pray that for whoever's listening or you're watching right now, that you that God brings wisdom into your social circles. He brings growth when it comes to the people that are around you. And I pray that you take a moment, whether it be this week or after you're watching this, to reevaluate the people in your circle, if they're uplifting you and sharpening you and challenging you, or are they kind of holding you back? And I pray that there's wisdom in the choices that you make from there on, and understanding on both sides, not just ghosting people. So
And I have a challenge for everyone out there. After this episode is over, I challenge you the next week, text at least 5 friends that God loves them.
yeah,
There you go.
that's a good one.
That's a good one.
I will answer that challenge by texting all of you.
Thank you guys. Thank you, Dylan, Emily, Jake, Jonathan. Thank you guys for sharing. This has been episode 3, Social Circles on the On God podcast. I hope you guys are full spiritually and just as much as I am. And that's
On
On
God.
God.